So I'm so excited to be here today with my friend and colleague, Joyce Weiss. Joyce, hello.
Hello, I'm thrilled to be here in this interview because I know you're good.
All
Great.
right. So, of course, the first question has to be, how did you select conflict resolution as your life's work?
Well, my kids always say to me, Mom, you look for trouble. And my answer to them and to the world is, I don't look for trouble. It's there. I just choose to deal with it or to walk away with it. And I have two answers to your question, to your great question, Jane. The professional answer is that when I switched from being a keynote speaker to a facilitator, one of my first jobs was that I was working with a credit union, and I was asking certain questions. There were it was the top leadership in the room, and there was this one woman that kept on folding her arms and said, "I'll pass." Now I did say I was new at this. I didn't know what I was doing. So at the end of the first day, I said, "I want to thank everybody, and tomorrow we're going to go even deeper, and I want you to come up prepared with ideas on how the team can help you improve and vice versa. And if you decide not to participate, I'm going to ask you to please stay in the office and don't come to the training." Jane, this was a risk. So I knew it was okay because the CEO comes up to me and gives me a hug and says, "Joyce, you have no idea how glad you said that. I've never figured out how to talk to her." This is when it dawned on me. If a CEO of a credit union doesn't have the skills, I think I'm onto something here. So that's my professional reason. Now, my personal one, and I'm going to give you the Reader's Digest view on this, but a few years ago, I was a guest on someone's show, and he asked me the same question. Why did I select conflict? And I had to think about it, and the an answer that popped out was just amazing to me. When I was a small child, my sister almost died from an infection. So for a few years, my parents put all their time and effort, which they should have, into my sister, and she did survive. But years later is when it dawned on me, no wonder why I'm helping others feel uh, less silent and so they can start using their voice. That's my story. And I'm about as real as they come because I don't just read the books.
Yeah.
It's my story, and I help others do that.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm personally always fascinated by the real why, the real backstory. So
Yes.
thank you for sharing that. And it makes complete sense because I think that there always is that professional answer. I do this so I can support people who do this so they can have these results. But what I love about being human is that deeper why, the deeper backstory. It's usually
Mhm.
something very, very personal with a lot of emotion around it. And so that makes complete sense that as a child, you felt that maybe you weren't being heard or being seen quite as much because in the moment, your parents made the right decision that your sibling was going to be the one that really needed all the attention so that she could heal. So that's very
Yeah.
powerful. That's very
Well,
powerful.
thank you. It's truthful. And I know some people may be saying, why is she revealing this? Well, how can a coach pretend that I'm just all book wise and experience wise? We've got to be real with our clients. And when I work with leaders who want Jane to create a culture where their employees feel heard and not invisible, encouraging direct and respectful communication that drives engagement and retention, you and all the viewers of this video now know why I help leaders do this.
Patterns do you see during your facilitations or coaching people? What patterns
Mhm.
tend to predominantly pop up that makes conflict resolution so challenging?
I love this one too. The employees who are in my facilitation, programs when we decide to leave the leaders out for part of the day and let's just talk to the employees. When they say, and they're not complaining, their truth is that the leaders don't deal with bullies. They're not dealing with the low productive people. And these star employees leave. And many times they've expressed they don't even tell this in the exit interviews because they're so disgusted. And I try to explain to these employees in direct reports that many times leaders just don't have the skills. They didn't learn. They were thrown into many times. They were thrown into leadership roles. But that truly is one of the main things that I hear from people who leave because their leaders just don't know how to take care of conflict.
That makes so much sense. I certainly had a corporate career for a long time, and we saw that all the time. Just leaders. And it's weird because the personal experience I had is the leaders would be really great leaders in a lot of things, a lot of areas,
Oh,
but attrition and employee turnover usually wasn't because the leader lacked skills in showing you how to be good at your job or get the
sure.
next promotion or even have fun at your job, but you'll have one or two people in an organization that are just kind of ruining the experience for everybody else. And it's not that they're bad people,
Yes.
it's just they need to be dealt with appropriately. And so I think that's what you're talking about, that the leaders sometimes ineffectively don't know what to do there. Is that
Ab-
you come across? Yeah.
oh, absolutely. You hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really challenging. So, and you don't want to lose your good people. So,
No.
what are some of the prominent mistakes that leaders make
Hmm.
when, if they address conflict?
Lack of follow-up.
So, what's that mean?
Because we had this conversation, I expect you to do XYZ. So how about asking the question instead of are we good to what do you need from me? What do I need to help you succeed here? That's allowing that person to feel heard again. It doesn't take much to ask that question, but sometimes it's please pass the salt and it's right in front of you, Jane. Sometimes it's something as basic as that.
So, the leader would ask the employee
Hmm.
member, "What is it that you need from me to feel like you're having a successful experience here?" So, what
Yes.
happens if the that person who's answering the question provides this whole list of things that just aren't possible, or they're taking no accountability, and it's, yeah, if you would just change as a leader everything here would be fine, when you've got a dynamic that's going on between at least two people, if not other team members. So what would you say to that?
I'm even going to go worse than your question. I'm not going to answer you. I don't really have to tell you. That's when my guests have said, well, it's up to you how you're going to answer the question. I'm here to see how we can help resolve this. I have to follow the rules and the procedures and policies of this company, and so do you. If you choose not to give me the answers to the questions, well, then there are going to be consequences. And Jane, you don't even have to say what the consequences are. I even had one guest, very aggressive, and he's a leader, very aggressive. He's from the military, and it worked for him because he's also a very caring person. He actually tells those, I'm not going to answer you. I don't have to do this. He says, I'm not going to leave this room until we have this conversation. It's going to be uncomfortable, but we're going to have this because there are going to be consequences. I'm going to say that again, Jane, if we don't have that conversation. That's ouch. And some of your our listeners or viewers may be saying, I can't do that. Yes, you can. We can stop saying, well, I'm conflict adverse. That's too aggressive. So do it your way. But the idea is be clear with your expectations of what you expect from that employee. That's missing. How do you like that one for an answer, huh?
But what do you do with the people who are more than happy to engage, but they're really defensive? So it's
Okay.
you
I,
need to change. This company needs to change. All my employees need, all my team members need to change, or just even clients and sometimes personal relationships. How do you handle somebody who says, "Hey, I'm more than willing to have this conversation. Don't you worry about that." And then it quickly morphs into you're the one that needs to change. You're the one that there's nothing wrong with what I'm doing. You. So how do you handle
oh
something
my God.
like
Now
that?
I'm smiling because I have something called verbal aikido. And that when people are throwing their you to you, trying to make you feel defensive, Jane, you may be surprised, but I say, and I ask my clients to practice because this is something new sometimes. You may be right. I may do blah, 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 blah. I still want to have this tough conversation. I don't want to make stress between us. I do want to have a conversation so we can resolve this conflict. And again, you. Well, if you're dealing with a bully who's off the charts, you're probably not going to get anywhere with them. I
Yeah.
would have to say, and I hate doing this, but we sometimes have to. Okay, I'm not going to continue this conversation right now. Let's have a conversation tomorrow. I want you to think of some answers that you're going to tell me that's productive, that's direct and respectful. Otherwise, there's going to be consequences. This is tough, but come on, is this not fair? If you say it in a way that doesn't sound judgmental and I'm out to get you, but as a good leader with something that I called be direct with respect. If all we are is respectful and direct, how can people not react to us?
Yeah, I love that. Be direct with respect. You tell me as the expert, do you
Hmm.
have to have a willingness on both parties to be able to do that? Or can you actually resolve conflict when you've got somebody that's just, they're, they want no part of it because they've done nothing wrong. They will not take any accountability. It is not them. Is it actually possible to resolve that kind of conflict when you're
Sure.
that kind of person? Okay, so how does that look like? What does that
But
look like?
we're going really deep, Jane. I knew we were going to. So, this is when you actually have to say something like, I really appreciate you and what you do in this aspect. What may be happening here, and maybe the disconnection, is that there may be a blind spot. Maybe we all have them. For example, and you could express one of your blind spots. I mean, one of mine, when I was a keynote speaker, I learned that I talk too much. As a keynote speaker, I thought you're supposed to, with the stories and stories. Once I got feedback, a blind spot, and have them reflect, and I even share that and have my leaders share a blind spot that they learned. And to say, one of your blind spots may be you may think that you have all the answers, and it would be great for us to even take a profile and assessments for you to engage and for you to learn some new things about yourself. The person may still push back, but if you say it in a not a Pollyanna way, but just in again a direct and respectful way, this person may say, "Huh, I never thought of that. Let's think about that. Thank you, leader." And just to say, this interview is like that. It's not you asking me questions and I'm the bobblehead answering. We're having a conversation. You're sharing your stories. You're asking the curiosity questions. And it's not just me talking. And hello, leaders. That's what we're trying to mirror here.
So,
Absolutely.
what are some of the most requested topics you get when it comes to conflict resolution when people hire you to come in and present or facilitate?
Love this question. I have lots of topics. then I will be very happy and share this resource at the end of our interview. I'll tell people how to do that. But some of the most requested ones are dealing with the imposter syndrome. New and experienced leaders all have the imposter syndrome. Jane, you still do, and so do I. And it's the idea of uncovering the doubts and figuring out how to get rid of that imposter syndrome quicker than you did in the past. So what we do is figure out what negative stories are we telling ourselves, so when that happens again, you get rid of it quicker. It's like magic.
So that is so good. And how does imposter syndrome create conflict?
Oh, because you doubt yourself. And what you do is you don't enter the conflict. You go back to those old stories. I don't have the skills. I'm bad at, tough conversations. I'm conflict adverse. I don't know how. That all may be true. Then you got to change that to remember a time when you did have a conversation and it went well. Remember a time when you did stand in front of those 2,000 people and it went great. And forget about the time when people walked out. That's what we have to do. One of the most important things you asked, what are my most requested topics, is I became certified to give the conflict dynamic profile. And again, you lead right into this, Jane. This is a profile where people learn how they deal with conflict before, during, and after. And why this is important is because, viewers, would you like to stop saying things you wish you didn't say? So this profile teaches you. It goes so deep in the clients who take it say, are you a mind reader? Of course not. It's the data that comes out about how you react and comes up with all kinds of resolution, what you can do, whether it's taking time to think or stop taking so much time and delaying and deal with it already. It's a brilliant assessment. And it's the whole idea. The more we know about ourselves, how we deal with conflict, the better we're going to feel about ourselves and feel more confident. This is not frou-frou stuff, Jane. This is real talk we're having.
That
You,
is great. And so,
yeah.
where do people get that?
Well, they can call me or they can send me an email, joyce@joyceweiss.com. And they can just take the profile. I could send it to them. They, of course, have to pay for it, but it's not a fortune. And then if they want to set up a session where, we'd go over it, done. It's finished. Or if they want to do some more work, then of course I got all kinds of packages that I would talk to them to make sure that they find the right one if I'm the right coach or facilitator for them.
What other projects do you have going on right now? Tell us about those.
Well, something that I've been doing for over a year now, but it's still new because I feel that it's every time I do a live podcast called Kick Conflict to the Curb, I'm learning how to be a better host. And how do I become a better host? By watching some of the favorite hosts on TV. So it's called Kick Conflict to the Curb. It's a live broadcast, and viewers gain wisdom from some of the world's best experts in conflict resolution. And I do these only once a month now because I interview my guests, I read their books, and we go deep. And we also have fun. And I make sure that all the guests that I invite understand that it's a conversation and they're not there just to sell their books or whatever it is that they're selling. And Jane, I just love that show. And I'm happy to say others do too. So also there's the LinkedIn, which is new. I have a LinkedIn newsletter called Kick Conflict to the Curb. And this is where I share either small clips from those interviews from my show on how leaders can create that culture where people, feel heard and not invisible. And something that I can't believe I'm doing, I'm going to get it right here. But recently I was asked to do a book review on my book, Take the Ride of Your Life, that was written in 2002. And the conversation was so pertinent today. The rest of the title is Shift Gears for More Balance, Growth, and Joy. People want self-care more than ever. So I'm relaunching it, and topics are the same, but we're going to do, whether it's me being invited to do book clubs or facilitate the topic. Next year is when I'm going to relaunch it and
I
let
know
people know
we're
about
telling
it.
about that. Yeah, I've got my
Yes.
copy, and I know you're going to be relaunching it starting in January. So I'm very
Yes.
excited for you to go into that.
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
All right, Joyce. Well, this has been so great. So last call out for if people want to find out more about you or
Hmm.
about coming in and facilitating a group session, or I know you do one-on-one sessions as well. Where can they find you and learn more?
Go to joyceweiss.com where they can look at coaching packages, lots of videos, and probably the best way is to send me an email, joyce@joyceweiss.com. Like I don't know my name. Joyce@joyceweiss.com, where I could send them a link to my calendar and we could have a Jam with Joyce session to see if I'm the right person and to figure out how they can reduce drama and enjoy going to work, how to stop dreading those tough conversations so they have the confidence to use the strategies. We'll cover a lot in this half hour. And that's how I'd like to end this interview. I always end my articles and my videos. You get what you tolerate. Is it going to be chaos or calm?
All right, Joyce. Well, you're one of
Oh,
my favorite people on the planet. I'm glad we could have
oh, same here.
to make sure my clients get it because who could
Thank
use
you.
a little beefing up of the conflict resolution department? So again, we can
Thank
find
you.
out about you if we go to joyceweiss.com. And your name is there. So Joyce, and then Weiss is
Hmm?
WEISS.com. We can grab some resources there. And then we could also schedule an appointment with you if we want to find out more about what you do or
Yes,
hiring you in. All right.
absolutely. Thank you so much for this
Very
opportunity.
welcome. It's my
Loved
pleasure
it.
doing the work that you do in the world.
Thanks. You too.